Shockwave. RCMP triggers national outrage after CBC statement leaves Canadians stunned. A wave of national outrage swept across Canada after a senior RCMP officer, Staff Sgt Camille Habel, made a controversial statement during a CBC interview. Habel implied that a sudden embrace of traditional values could be a sign that a person is on the path to radicalization. While the discussion centered around a high-profile RCMP operation in Quebec that led to terrorism-related arrests, her comment quickly became the focal point of public anger. For many Canadians, it was a moment of disbelief, one that suggested ordinary values held by millions of people could be viewed with suspicion by law enforcement. The controversy stemmed from an RCMP investigation that resulted in the arrest of 4 men, including 2 members of the Canadian Armed Forces. Authorities alleged the group had been plotting to seize territory near Quebec City and form a breakaway society. A massive weapons cache, one of the largest ever seized in a terrorism investigation in Canada, was discovered. Though this raised legitimate concerns about public safety and extremism, the RCMP's portrayal of the suspects' motives lacked clear, factual grounding. Rather than focusing solely on the concrete evidence like firearms and explosives, officials ventured into assumptions about ideological leanings. In her interview, Sergeant Habel spoke broadly about signs of radicalization, noting that individuals who abandon beliefs in gender equality and begin embracing traditional gender roles might be exhibiting early signs of extremism. That statement, however, quickly crossed a line for many Canadians who felt it stigmatized core beliefs shared by religious families, immigrant communities, and many citizens who simply value traditional ways of life. It wasn't just a poor choice of words. It reflected a mindset that seemed to criminalize dissent from modern ideological norms. The reaction was swift and deeply emotional. Across social media, Canadians from all walks of life, left, right, and center, expressed concern that the institutions meant to protect them are becoming disconnected from the people they serve. Critics accused the RCMP and CBC of framing ordinary cultural or social beliefs as potential threats. Many noted the irony that values which had shaped the foundation of Canadian life for generations were now being linked, however subtly, to extremism. This, they argued, is not the path of a free or tolerant society. Concerns about overreach were amplified by what appeared to be a growing pattern: government agencies and public broadcasters increasingly treating conservative or traditional views with suspicion. Some Canadians pointed out that questioning government policies, advocating for parental rights in education, or promoting strong family structures are now often framed as dangerous or fringe beliefs. The effect is chilling, creating a climate where people feel that holding certain viewpoints could lead to being labeled as extremists or even investigated by authorities. Many also noticed a glaring inconsistency in how the justice system is being applied. In one Ontario case, a man reportedly exposed himself to a client while on duty but received only probation, allegedly to avoid jeopardizing his immigration status. Incidents like this have fueled frustration and deepened public distrust in a system that increasingly appears to apply rules differently depending on one's background or political utility. Canadians who see their values criminalized while serious crimes receive lenient treatment are left wondering whether justice still operates on equal principles. Adding to this concern is the growing erosion of trust in leadership. According to recent polling, only a fifth of Canadians believe their children will inherit a better future, and over 2/3 think politicians deliberately lie to the public. Alarmingly, a similar majority of young Canadians now view hostile activism, whether through property damage, threats, or online misinformation, as a valid way to push political change. This shift points to a broader societal fracture, where trust in government, law enforcement, and media institutions is rapidly collapsing. Yet instead of addressing these cracks, the response from official channels seems to be increasing suspicion towards citizens rather than listening to their grievances. When a federal police agency equates cultural or religious values with extremism, it raises legitimate questions about freedom of thought in Canada. This isn't about tolerating violence or criminal behavior. Most Canadians agree such acts should be prosecuted. But painting people who believe in traditional gender roles or conservative family structures as potentially dangerous crosses a dangerous line. It's also worth noting that traditional values are not inherently political or ideological. For many, they are rooted in heritage, culture, or personal conviction. Whether it's a woman choosing to be a stay-at-home mother or a young man embracing faith-based teachings, these choices are valid expressions of personal freedom. Equating such beliefs with radicalization is not only inaccurate but unfairly marginalizes large segments of the population, including many Indigenous, Muslim, Sikh, Christian, and immigrant families. Even within the military and law enforcement communities, which historically lean conservative, there's concern that loyalty and service are being undermined by ideological scrutiny. Those who have committed their lives to serving the country are now seeing their personal values placed under the microscope. Rather than strengthening national unity, this approach risks alienating some of the most dedicated and capable individuals in public service. The message being sent is not one of inclusion, but of ideological policing. As the new Liberal government under Prime Minister Mark Carney navigates the fallout from this controversy, the response will be telling. Canadians are looking for leadership that can differentiate between dangerous actors and ordinary citizens with differing beliefs. It's not enough to simply walk back comments or issue clarifications. What's needed is a fundamental reassessment of how institutions treat ideological diversity in a free society. The fear is not that violent extremism won't be addressed, but that peaceful, law-abiding citizens will be caught in the dragnet of vague and ideological definitions of risk. In a time of growing political polarization and economic uncertainty, this kind of messaging can be deeply corrosive. Canadians want to feel safe, but they also want to feel free. The outrage over Sergeant Habel's comments reveals not just frustration over one statement, but a broader fear that institutions are no longer neutral. If tradition becomes suspicion and dissent becomes extremism, then the fabric of Canadian democracy begins to fray. What Canadians are demanding now is simple: fairness, transparency, and the right to hold personal beliefs without fear of state judgment.